All right, so good morning, everyone. Welcome
Morning.
to the April Government Affairs meeting. It's great. My co-chair, Glenn Morris, is on Zoom with us this morning. Do you have anything to say, Glenn?
Just to welcome Tom. I know he's got a lot of good news to talk about regarding the T, and happy to hear it.
We didn't have a quick train to get you here this morning. Just getting a chauffeur. So we have Senator / Mayor McGee with us this morning. Once again, the mayor's, I think his life's work has been geared towards transportation in the Commonwealth, and now you're the chair of the MBTA Control Board.
MBTA, it's called now the MBTA Board.
Okay.
The Control Board was the earlier iteration of the board.
Okay, so even though he's retired, transportation still his job. So welcome, and it's great to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Well, it's funny. As I was talking about this, I talk about it all the time. Why am I, why I actually spoke at a UNH civil engineers class, and one of my friends is a professor up there, and I was talking a little bit. Well, why did you get involved in transportation? And as an elected official in what city, you understand it, all of us understand around the chamber. I got elected in '94, and Blue Line to Lynn was the #1 priority. We have been talking about it since 1946. I think more, which is Tri-State Glass from 1946. But the reality is, and for us to thrive as a community, transportation is the key, really. And it's not only the key for Lynn, but it's really the key to the region and the key to our future. The MBTA, a 21st century, vibrant, really affordable, safe, and easily accessible MBTA is really what's going to drive our economy moving forward. And so having a chance to be on the board and be a part of that is really exciting, to continue to advocate for the kind of investments that bring substantial public and private investment from our public. So it's an exciting time to be a part of that, because it really is, it's the key to our future. And there's a lot of things that are happening that are getting us and moving us in that direction, both as an agency, but just as importantly as what's happening here in Lynn. The general manager, Phil Lang, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet him. I think he's been to Lynn. Has been a tremendous leader in addition to the T, and has really changed the direction with strong support from the Healy administration to really take on what was an agency in distress and really start to move in the right direction. When he took it over, we were down close to 2,000 employees. We had slow zones throughout the light rail and heavy rail system. Things were really in tough shape. The budget was really underfunded substantially. So he came in and brought a different perspective, years of experience in numerous areas in New York, and has really turned the agency around. Gotten substantial funding from the administration as well as the legislature to start to take on some of the real challenges that T has faced, particularly, for example, I think it's a really great story to tell, is the slow zones, addressing the slow zones on the subway system that were really impacting people's ability to use the system. And he came up with and the other piece, which I think is important, when I think it was 2 or 3 months in, and the Lynn station had closed, and he came down and met with the delegation there, and went back to the team, because it was I think it was 16 to 18 months of a closure, expected closure, and he went back to the team and was basically said, we need to do better than this. We need to think outside the box. How can we open that station? It's a really key piece of its transportation needs. And he was able to put together a plan that instead of 18 months, the station reopened in 9 months. And they used surplus materials that he had and came up with a different way to create a station that's now operating in the interim for longer term a new station. Similarly, when he on the subway lines came up with the idea of shutdowns, and initially there was real pushback But we're gonna shut down the line for 2 weeks. Well, let's take buses, you think that's really a disruption for people running every day depending on it. But his idea was, and the way the work was done prior to that, you know, when the trains closed at 1, you'd spend about an hour getting ready to start doing work, and then you'd work till about 4:30, and then you'd shut down the work because those lines are open again. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and he realized that, so that he again went with his team, and how can we make it better? What's the point? What's a better plan for this? So that they looked at a year-long shutdowns line by line along the corridor, wherever the slow zones were, and were able to come up with that plan. As time went on, yes, there were disruptions. I actually was taking the blue line during the busing. The bus was going right, but over the period of a year, the slow zones have been completely eliminated. And so, which is because he came up with an idea of, let's shut it down, let's do the work that needed to be done. And along the way, while they were doing those shutdowns, and I think this is really a great story that needs to continue to be told. The maintenance of way division in the agency did the work, and not only did they address the slow zones, but as they went through the process of doing the work, they started to expand the scope of the work, because they were starting to get, you know, they're innovating, so they was more and more expanding the scope of the work, taking on the stations, upgrading stations, improving the stations, doing electrical work, doing the kind of work that needed to be done but hadn't been done in time. And during that period of time, they were able to not only get the slow zones eliminated, but take on substantial state of good repair that was specifically directed on just the tracks alone. And it just reflects the kind of thinking that he brings to the table, and the innovation that he's bringing that really has shown results. So, you know, everybody talks about how much does it cost. More importantly, how do we get there? How do we spend the dollars wisely? And then what's the return on the dollar? Well, the return on the investment we made over the last year on the slow zones, just one example of a bigger, you know, there's a lot in the agency that needs to be addressed, is we're back to where the system is running, where people can depend on it. You can take the blue line, I take it pretty much 2 or 3 times a week. You're 20 minutes from London to Government Center. And if there's a train is going when you leave, there's a train 2 or 3 minutes later. And that's across the system. The red line trains are going up to 50 miles an hour along the corridor, heading down towards Braintree, which was originally the way they ran in the past. 55 miles an hour on the orange line between Assembly Square up to Oak Grove in stretches along the way, saving people time. More importantly, people can depend on subway system, and that's what people don't know. And people don't want to, I'm telling this long story. People want to know, when's it going to be here, and can I get the training, and is it going? And but by doing all of that work and doing it in-house, you know, building the skill set of the team in-house. For example, there's welding that goes on. If you think the tracks are, you know, tracks are put together, spiked together a lot, there's thousands of connections that are just spiked together. That's where the tracks deteriorate quickly, you know, because you think that, you know, as the trains go over, those should be welded together so that there's a seamless, and so there isn't that spot along, thousands of spots along the corridor to deteriorate in terms of state of repair. They didn't do that welding in-house when they started this work. They took it on and started a trained in-house staff. Now they're continuing to do the welding beyond the slow zones to get all of those connections welded together, and you know, that investment in the long term save, you know, maintenance dollars. So it's you know, let's get into the weeds because the public just wants to know who's working. But I think it's a reflection of the story that the agency is doing things differently. Perhaps positive, and I think that bodes well for the future. In terms of what does that mean for Lynn? I know that the delegation and the mayor are working closely with the general manager, particularly on the what's the future of the garage, what's the long-term future of you know, the station has to be you know, rebuilt. So they've been collaborating. I think the original collaboration, as I said, was getting the interim station open quickly, with general managers work and his team. So there's a lot of interaction going on about what's the future for Lynn, and I really believe not only it's not just the station, but the garage, but the regional rail proposal that you mentioned it earlier, Rick, the Fiscal Management Control Board had supported substantially this recreating the commuter rail into a regional rail, electrified 21st century frequent service system. That's really the opportunity we have here in Lynn to see the kind of frequent service or subway style service that we've been talking about for decades.
Is that still in the plan?
That's still in the plan. Obviously, money is a substantial factor for the whole system. We have a $25 billion state of good repair, which is legitimate. That means to get the whole system up to, good repair so that it's running properly. But that's still in play, and there's a number of pieces that are happening that reflect continued progress on that front. The Fairmont line is, so there were 3 early phase pieces of the regional rail, which included the Lynn line, the Fairmont line, and the Providence line. Providence line because a lot of it is electrified. The Fairmont line's been underserved, but it's easier to get interim steps on the Fairmont line and Lynn. Like I said, the Lynn line. So we on the T board with strong support from the leadership on the T, and with definitely strong support from the administration, have procuring battery electric rail cars. Those are in the process of procurement's completed. We're in the process of getting those cars built, and by 2028 on the Fairmont line, that battery electric service that we're talking about here for Lynn will be happening. So Lynn is not the first place where the cars are coming, but I know that they're looking to see in terms of modeling how they can start to make that happen coming to Lynn. But the idea that we're really moving forward on that regional rail plan, it's not just talk, it's real. There's a major investment to buy vehicles. There's money in the capital investment plan to continue to do engineering studies on the north side here. Looking to Salem is a piece of that in terms of a South Salem station, as well as maintenance facilities up in South Salem. And those efforts continue in terms of the regional. So I think the important thing that I can emphasize, I think, to the chamber, you've heard me say this before, but there's an opportunity for all of us to continue to advocate for this kind of investment. The more dollars need to go in the system to meet the 21st century system that would be transformative for us. But it really is, it takes an advocacy and an understanding of one, why are we advocating for it? Obviously, you get a transportation system here that works, but what comes from that investment? Economic investment, private investment, the kind of things that we're seeing in Lynn, but the opportunity is substantially bigger. And so I think it's incumbent on all of us to really continue to advocate for those kind of efforts. South Coast Rail, they branded, growing up it was Fall River, New Bedford, but they branded themselves as South Coast Rail. Continued to beat the drum for returning that service that hadn't been put in place since 1957. Since the 90s, every governor's race that governors were campaigning in that part of the state, South Coast Rail was the #1. And it opened a couple of weeks ago. I was on one of the first trains riding down there, but the excitement, there was probably 800 or 900 people at the opening at East Spartan. The excitement on this, we don't get that news cycle up here, but the excitement was palpable. And that why did that happen? Because people in that area understood the opportunity that 90-minute access commuter rail service to Boston, but just as importantly, and they don't like to say commuting, transportation service up and down, coming or going. And the excitement was real, and that was through years of advocacy with their elected officials, with statewide leadership and business groups, local community groups, advocating for that to happen. And because of that advocacy, the system is in place now. And it's
and it's not all commuting.
No,
So much of it is tourism.
Right.
You know, even from the North Shore, taking the ferry, you wanna go to the P-Town or whatever, what you said,
Yeah.
from South Station, take the train down and then take a ferry over to the vineyard.
yeah.
Tourism is huge.
And it's a different world, post pandemic. It's not about commuting as much as being able to get where you want to go. And we get, you know, we have this, you know, nice stop in our community, but you have $10 weekend passes. So you can go up to Rockport, to Gloucester, to Boston, you can actually hop on the train on nice weekends and make decisions to go in the region. And come to Lynn for all of the exciting restaurants here and the excitement that's happening here, both on the Lynnway and the investment that's happening here in the community. So really, as I said earlier, being able to put the pieces in place on transportation drives everything. Yeah. Housing, jobs, access to education. Obviously, we have our own stop right here at the North Shore Community College. You know, the campus is right here. Bridgewater University has a stop right on the campus on the South Coast Rail. They can draw students from New Bedford, Fall River. They do. They have students in New Bedford, Fall River, Taunton, Brighton. So now instead of driving 70% of their campuses commuters, so they actually can hop on that rail and get to the campus. It stops off the campus. And so the university is excited, but I think a lot of the students now have a different option to don't have to get in their cars, or don't need a car if they're going up to the campus. So
You don't need to pay for the housing.
you know, right,
Yeah.
you're coming from wherever you're going, so it isn't, you know, it's commuting to the school, but it's more than that. So the opportunities here are really exciting. I mean, talked about the ferry, March 31st was the first day. I like to talk about it. We started in 2000, people thought it was a crazy idea. Around 2000, so why not having a Lynn ferry in Boston? It took a long time, but you know, at this point, we have a permanent service that was gone from 3 months, 4 months. It ended at the end of November. It started March 31st. We're looking at 8 months now with the goal of making it a year-round service. And you know, I would urge people to take it if they haven't already. But there's a real loyal following, and once you've taken that, I've already been on it. The commute in for a day. Once you've taken it, it's the only way to travel.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Especially on a nice day.
A nice day. The day I was on it was it's like 45 or 50, but it was bright sunny day. I was up on the upper deck. It really wasn't. It was just spectacular. Spectacular. These spring days when you can see for miles.
Yeah.
And you're out on the boat, it's just spectacular.
And it's amazing how many people use it even on the weekends. My wife and I had nothing to do on a Saturday last year. The St. Anthony's Feast was going on in Boston. We'll take the ferry in. Get on the ferry, sitting on the top deck, and all of a sudden Freddie Hogan comes up, Coco comes up. Take the boat in, we dock, get off the boat. The mayor's there with his kids, getting back on. Jim Cowdell,
Yeah.
the Barrys, John and Colleen Barry. It's like amazing how many people.
Taking it in just to go for dinner, and coming home in the sunset. It's incredible, because on your way back, you're just watching it.
Yeah.
I did, Father's Day last year was awesome, amazing day, perfect.
We already have plans with a couple of friends of ours, to take our bikes and get on the other one from Boston, get on to go to P-Town or the Vineyard or something.
Well, it's really easy access if you want it. My student did it. I think it was 16. We had a friend down in the Cape and was running the 2-year pilot program. You could take the ferry from Lynn.
Yeah.
You know, at 8 o'clock, get off the boat, walk about 500 feet to the ferry to Provincetown.
Yeah.
They were in Provincetown by 10:30, and then their friends picked them up with if you were gonna drive there, you'd still be driving.
Yeah. Bob Hopton shopped all day, and we were back on the Lynway, I think by 6:30.
And so that's the discussion we have. I think it's not just transportation options that change the quality of life. And we have the pieces here, we just need to continue to push to bring them all together. The ferry's running. So the boardwalk will be completed, so it's easier to walk over to there. I know that those are things that play. And just as importantly, looking to see what we can do and continue to advocate for that service to be here. So It really is something that we, I think all of us together work together and advocate for, and the return is real. And there's some good things have been happening as well. The governor's proposal to maximize the fair share amendment dollars. She's been, there's been a couple of press conferences on that. Piloting those dollars that have come in higher than expected into an $8 billion investment over the next 10 years.
And so what funding is that?
That's the fair share amendment, the millionaires tax, so-called millionaires tax. So that has been, those dollars have been coming in, but instead of just kind of taking them as they come in, the RANF team put together a plan that would, pool the dollars together and allow an $8 billion investment across all modes of transportation, but $1.5 billion to the T, which helped us fill a substantial operating gap. So that's, she's been a tremendous leader on transportation, continues to focus on, talk about it, and understands the positive that comes from those kind of public investments. So that's exciting. The capital investments that are happening, slow zones, as I said, and so there's a lot of good things happening. What we've done is during that period of time, also the support of the administration, we went on a big hiring campaign. So we were down 2,000 employees, which really impacted the ability of an operation. If you're in business or you're doing anything and you're down a quarter of your workforce, there's a problem. So we have pretty much hired back almost all of those employees that were necessary to run the operation, and that was also part of what's come in the last couple of years with the funding that's come in. Some of the money on the capital investment that continues to happen. The process now of going through our budget and then looking at the next capital improvement plan in terms of what's the next 5-year plan for the capital needs of the agency. And so there's a lot going on. The other thing I think I just want to mention is the MBTA Go app. If anyone hasn't seen it, check it out. It's free to get on the app. It's an in-house real-time service so that you can actually, like, if I'm leaving here, I have it on my phone here, and I'm wondering which Blue Line car I'm gonna get. It will give you, there's one at 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20, 22 minutes, whatever. It'll give you the list of, the schedule in real time. And that's true for buses, commuter rail, and for subways.
All in the one app?
All in the one app. If you plug it, like I said, I would urge everyone to check it out. It's developed in-house. It's an easy,
To do ticketing too?
Yep, MBTA Go, yep. Doesn't do ticketing, but it gives you all the information. And with the ticketing, which I think, they're working on it for the commuter rail and for the ferries, but if you're going on the subways you can just use the pass, or can use your credit card. So we've upgraded your ability to easily get on back and forth. And the goal is over the next year is to get all modes of transportation, all of this T system to be able to access. If you just get a credit card, you can get a T pass, you can have it on your phone, pay. It's really a big improvement. People's ability to just quickly get. And I've used that other places. It's like if you've been to New York, it's just actually the same cubic. It's like it's a thing about this big. And you just tap either your pass or your credit card. So it's easily.
I know such issues like my brother, and he works at Emerson. And in the summer, he would take the ferry a lot because he couldn't round trip, he couldn't be guaranteed to get on, so he'd get out of work and get there. And he wouldn't be able to get on, and then he'd have an hour wait or whatever to get on the second one. So that was his wish, that he could get it, but get a reserved seat, so you get on.
Well, I'll speak to this, and I do have to go at night, maybe take a couple questions. I've taken the ferry a couple times, and then my schedule is I need to think. So I've taken the commuter rail and walked back and got my car at the ferry. I mean, it's 5 or 10 minute walk, but
Yeah.
the idea, one of the former general managers in the early 2000s, Mike Mulhern talked about Lynn being a transportation hub. We have buses, we have commuter rail and regional rail. Now we have the ferry. There's closer and closer together. So if you are stuck, you know, and you're waiting for, you know, it's 2 o'clock and the ferry's coming at 4, you can walk over to the garden and get on the commuter rail. So or you can hop on a bus if you really need to. So I think thinking a little bit differently on what the transportation connections are as we build them and connect, it makes it a better system for everyone to be able to take advantage of it. The other thing that's going on is the bus network redesign, which the first phase of that has started. So it's smaller in Malden, Medford to Chelsea through Revere, 15-minute headway. So on that line, so you're not waiting for an hour for the bus. It's every 15 minutes buses are coming. So the general managers talked about this. The frequency and availability of the system is what's going to continue to have people look at that as an option. And when you're in traffic, wherever you go, it's really important. And I think you know, my one message is get back, try the T out, take the commuter rail. It's 18 minutes here from Lynn. Take the ferry. If you're
It's the only way I go to the garden.
take the right. You know, and so I'm happy to take a couple quick questions. I gotta be in town around 10, but
Questions? I think the one question, and it came up last month too, we came up with when Aaron was here, is timeline on the station, the Lynn station, and in the garage. I know they're 2 separate.
so I can't really speak to the timeline. When I mentioned earlier that those are ongoing discussions with the mayor and the delegation and the GM, directly with the GM as well. So those that collaboration is happening. So they're working towards what's the next steps and how do we start to really jumpstart and start to move those projects forward. The design we're in the process of designing the station. The real challenge with the T right now is we have a $25 million state of good repair. That doesn't include expansion or increasing service. So the station's a part of that, obviously the 25 million. We're limited and, you know, we're revenue constrained. It's how we like to put it. But we.
So that wasn't funded before.
It's the funding for the study is there, and then the funding for the building. You get it to 30%, and that's in the process of happening. But that's obviously the other piece of it. How do we continue to make larger investments in the system and see the return that we get on the dollar? And that's why I think it's important to talk about what's been going on, because it's building the trust back with the public. So when we're saying, hey, we need, I don't know, millions of dollars to build the station. It's just one example of hundreds and hundreds of investments. People feel confident that the agency is. And I don't know what the feeling is around the table here, but there's definitely been a change, I think, in the public's perspective of the T in a positive way. I think the trust is being built back. I think because of the administration support, the GM and his team that he's brought in and showing real results, that people are willing to say, okay, we'll invest in the system. If it's broken and you can't even get on a train, it slows down. People didn't have that feeling. I really believe that's changing. And I know some of the data is reflected that I think in the 30s was the satisfaction with the T. I think it's close to 70 now in terms of some of the polling that's being done. I think that reflects professionalism and the experience the GM has brought to the table to change the direction in a positive way. And again, those investments that we're going to make have a substantial return on the dollar. It's not just money that's been spent; it's money that gets spent that really grows our economy. And like I said earlier, T is a key piece of our economic future. We make these public investments, the private investments will come. And the people that are, you know, the 2 major things that people are looking at people are looking to maybe move out of Massachusetts: housing and transportation. Those are 2 of the top. You can take it on with a system that works for everyone. You see the, you know, the housing will be built, and you'll see the business growth that comes from that investment. So, the chamber understands that, right? Your own business. Absolutely. You make the investment to get the return, right? That's how it works. Without the investment, you can't make it happen. Thank you very much for listening.
Who's coming in?
Happy to stay engaged, working with all of you. Thanks. That's a very good.
Okay. All right, man.
I
Thank you.
gotta keep pushing.
Very much.
Thanks.
Um,
Thanks, everyone.
Rod, you've got a couple of things to talk about?
Yeah, next month, we have the state delegation coming in. Following that, in June, we have State of the Region, that'll be at St. Mary's. Coming up next week, April 17th, Thursday night, 5 o'clock. We're gonna be here for a ribbon cutting ceremony. Hope you all can join us. There'll be some refreshments, and then hopefully we'll be going next door to a comedy show.
Just a quick question. So when's the delegation? What's the date?
The 14th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later, man. Thank you.